Now let's talk about children and the emotional considerations. Wow, what a huge topic this is. There is nothing dearer to your heart than your children. Many a parent stay in a bad relationship because of concern for the welfare of their children. Here are some dilemmas facing parents. One, I want to get out of this marriage because it's bad for me, but should I stay in this unhappiness because it's better for them? Or two, how does my suffering in this marriage affect our children? Or three, am I a better parent in or out of this relationship? Four, will my children suffer financially if I leave? Will their lifestyle be affected? First, let's address the biggest concern most parents share. I am staying in this bad marriage because I don't want my children to suffer. That's a noble sacrifice, but is it really a healthy sacrifice for you or your children? That answer all depends on the circumstances of your marriage. In the vast majority of cases where the parents have just grown apart and don't like each other, children may actually thrive in two separate households. Children are very intuitive. They sense and feel the tensions of their parents even without fighting or arguing. Raising children in a loveless household is harmful all by itself. Children deserve happy parents. I do not suggest that the process of splitting up the family unit is not hard on children. It can be very difficult on them. The good news is that children are much better adapting than adults believe, and it's usually the adults who resist change. Children are resilient and recover quickly. It is a common assumption that both parents love their children and want what's best for them. When that is true and the concept is carried out, then children will cope really well with divorce. But in my legal experience, I see far too many parents caught up in their own needs and wants at this difficult time, making them incapable of seeing life through the eyes of their children. They are not able to act in their kids' best interest. Some of the most model parents fall into this trap. Don't be one of them. If you get nothing else out of this session, then please be keenly aware of looking objectively at your own behavior as it affects your children. Within this section, we are going to spend some quality time talking about shared parenting and time sharing schedules. Before we get there, we need to be aware of our own actions that can cause as much harm to children as a divorce or separation. Here are some common problems I share with you in order to help you develop your own awareness and insight. The direct relationship with your spouse. How do you treat your spouse? With respect or ridicule? With civility or contempt? Even if you think you are not conveying those negative emotions in front of your child, trust me, you are. And those emotions hurt your children far more than they hurt your spouse. Indirect relationship with your spouse. What do you say about your spouse to others? Even if you think your children are not listening, they probably are. An overheard negative conversation about the other parent can be devastating to a child. Children haven't developed the same coping skills as adults. The snide remarks you make now could have lasting effects on your child. Spouse versus spouse. Are you competing with your spouse for the children's affections? It happens all the time without folks even being aware. There is a built-in tendency to compete for their attention and affection. Subconsciously, are you hoping they love you more than the other parent? Awareness of children's emotions. Are you aware of your child's feelings? When we get wrapped up in our own hurts and emotions, it can be a struggle to set them aside long enough to accurately see our children's emotions and then attend to those emotions. Are you paying attention to your child? Are you checking in with them and asking the right questions? Are you encouraging them to communicate? Communication with children. Are you discussing the divorce with your child? There is a definite line between being honest about what is happening in your life and theirs and sharing adult details that no child needs to hear. Telling children, Mom and Dad are going to be living in two households is factual and perfectly appropriate. Telling them it is happening because Mom is a drunken slob who had an affair with her coworker is an entirely different and entirely wrong approach. Parenting. Know your role. Are you still parenting your children? And by that, I mean, are you still assuming the role of the parent and not the best friend and confidant? It's hard to parent, but they need boundaries now more than ever. Mutual spouse support. Do you support the other parent? Actions you take to undermine the other parent will be felt painfully by the children. The temptation to give in to feelings of anger may lead you to take actions with the intent of hurting the other spouse. This often causes damage to both spouses and especially children. The point: get therapy. Speaking with a therapist before you separate can have positive consequences for the whole family. Get educated about how to best speak with your children. Each family is different, and each set of facts that has led to your breakup is unique. Someone trained in mental health and psychology can help you avoid many harmful pitfalls. Try to get the other parent to join you, but if the other parent won't, go on your own. Solving children issues in a therapeutic way is much preferable to having a judge dictate and decide. Depending on the circumstances, I often also recommend that children receive therapy. This method may help children see things as they are without criticizing their parents. They may feel more validated, and they may learn to trust themselves and their perceptions. Before you say you can't afford therapeutic help, let's do the math. The hourly rate for a good family therapist generally ranges from $100 to $500, depending on the professional and the location. Insurance may help cover the costs. Let's compare that to the hourly rate for a family lawyer, which is still much higher, and there's no insurance. If you have to go to a mediation to resolve your children issues, you will have the cost of your lawyer and the share of the mediator's costs. The out-of-pocket dollars for therapy are pale compared to the emotional cost of letting judges decide the fate of your children. There are circumstances that warrant aggressive court intervention. An example is where the child is at risk of harm with one parent, such as alcohol, drugs, abuse, or risky behavior. Another is where one parent just won't share the children and refuses to cooperate with time sharing. If you fall into one of those situations, I suggest you run to a lawyer for help. I have learned through many years of observation that the bottom line, that when parents get along, children thrive. When parents don't get along, children suffer. And whether married or divorced, our children reflect ourselves. How do you want that reflection to come back in the mirror?